Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength BodCast.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's edition of the Original Strength Podcast. I've got my good friend, Dr. Justin Klein, on the show with me today. Justin,
What's
thank you for
happening?
being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Tim. It's great to be here, man.
So, Dr. Klein, the real reason I wanted to have you on the show is because you're well, you're one of the few people I know that is extremely passionate about helping people and about your craft. And it just so happens your craft is helping people. Um, I mean,
Well, thank you.
and you love what you do,
Absolutely.
and you seem to have a true passion for helping others live a better life. So I just wanted to talk to you about that and what you do and how you got started being a chiropractor.
Well, that's a great. I appreciate that. My journey to becoming a chiropractor started as a fitness guy, wellness-minded athlete, but a broken athlete at that. Had lots of injuries growing up, a lot of concussions, shoulder injuries, elbow injuries, ankle injuries. One thing led to another. I was challenging. I'll tell you the long story short. I was challenging to top three in the state in my wrestling class my senior year. Winning 6-2 in the regional semifinals. I ended up tearing three ligaments in my ankle. Kind of looked up, to the doc that was taping me up, and I said, you know what, I'm probably going to be more like you than I am going to be the champ. And he was a medical doctor, so I went to pre-med at Maryland. Started with my major at pre-med, and ended up a kinesiology major. Studied more like human science and movement and things like that. And then looking into what I could do after that, it was physical therapy, chiropractic. They were kind of among those things, and found a real deep interest in the nervous system. Kind of my personal journey, my personal perspective of just how the body heals itself. And one thing led to another. I went to chiropractic school, and I never looked back. It was just kind of this almost like daily eureka moments in chiropractic school. So it was really like amazing to follow the gut on those types of things for myself. And yeah, I mean, as a chiropractor, it's interesting, an interesting field because there's such a wide spectrum of chiropractors out there, and I like to tell people I'm not your chiropractor's chiropractor. Like I'm not like, it's not like my thing isn't just kind of adjusting people, and having them rely on me. I do have that mindset of the personal trainer, right? I was a personal trainer from college on through grad school. Really interested in exercise science and how the body healed itself, and kind of always knowing what my limitations were. It was always another sort of interesting thing about my path, because like I would always refer clients out to doctors if and when. So it was, it was always collaborating and just all about that collaborative mindset, and having people, really understand what they're dealing with. Because things that we don't know, but there's usually some kind of an answer to it. But you also have to, like you say all the time, I mean, we got to meet ourselves where we are. And so I've found my own personal journey to become a chiropractor. I've met myself where I am with humility through my process. I was not supposed to be a medical doctor because it didn't work for me. If we go into certain things on my personal journey, I was allergic to penicillin by the time I was 9 years old. I still have tubes stuck in my ear that are scarred over from all the ear infections that I got. And I don't know if you guys all out there know that chiropractic is kind of known to help with people with ear infections. Not all the time. These aren't all the time things. I don't think there's an all the time fix for anything. But if my parents had only known to possibly take me to a chiropractor to get adjusted and see if maybe it helps with one of my thousands of ear infections that I got when I was a kid. That's an exaggeration because I'm not 1,000 years old, but I got one a year pretty much for a while. Um, yeah, so I mean, I think my personal journey just kind of put me into this place of becoming a doctor of chiropractic, um, and natural healing is the way to go.
So yeah, yours is the first chiropractic office I've ever been in where I wasn't sure if I was in a fitness studio
Hmm.
or a doctor's office.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, like you say, right? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's my passion is getting people moving, and movement is medicine. This is, I think, something that we've known for thousands of years, and it's not about like this is one of the reasons chiropractic works is because if we're going to adjust a restricted joint, right, or a system of joints, then that movement has its sort of medical miracle, so to speak, of getting the nervous system moving in that area and getting the joints moving so that things start to flow a little bit better. But as well as doing that or relying on me as the doctor to do that for you or for a patient, you know, they better move on their own at home. They better do something to take care of themselves and make sure that they're continuing to move better for life. Otherwise, you're just going to rely on me as an expensive band-aid. So I say all that to say that, we've got plenty of things in my office, like a nice kettlebell rack, a bunch of bands, a big wrestling mat in the middle, so, I've got my understanding of a healthy place to rock and roll around, on those type of big mat, big comfortable mat. But yeah, so I'm glad you enjoyed it because that's just my way, that's my ego out there in that room. I love for people to join in on, and yeah, so it's definitely my way to do it. Movement is medicine.
So you told me a fascinating story about how chiropractic care started. Can you share that real quick? I thought
Yeah,
it was pretty
sure.
neat.
Yeah. So I usually ask this question to a lot of my patients who have not seen a chiropractor before, even those who have. A lot of people don't know. And when I ask, I say, "So why do you think chiropractic exists?" Right? And most people's answer, they're like, I don't know, some kind of pain management or something like that, maybe for low back pain, for headaches, for whatever their thoughts, for injuries. I've heard some people say, well, alignment of the body, that's great. That's kind of as close as it gets to the answer is in 1895, this guy named D.D. Palmer, who had traveled around the world and learned things like bone moving and Ayurveda, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. He had a janitor in the building he worked at in Davenport, Iowa, who was deaf. And D.D. Palmer adjusted Harvey Lillard, the deaf janitor, and his hearing came back. And it was just a fascinating eureka moment that, I think D.D. Palmer said, oh my gosh, the body's healing itself. And there's no empirical evidence to support that, right? There's really none, very little, if that. But it's a fascinating story that started the concept of, them understanding, that the body heals itself, really, truly understanding that and taking it to the next level, and learning how to communicate that to people, right? So then they started understanding or bringing in this word subluxation, which I don't use much in my practice at all. But the word subluxation can mean anything from an instability or a restriction, right? Or those types of things in the body, hypermobility or hypomobility, all these kinds of misalignments and issues that, I think 120 years ago, they needed a term like that, to communicate that to the masses and get people to understand, hey, let's get rid of these subluxations so your body can heal itself a little bit better. Well, now that there's evidence-based medicine and all kinds of much deeper understandings in the medical research of how things work, that term has its pros and cons. But chiropractic has been through it, and we now have a lot of evidence and understanding as to why we do what we do, well beyond the, you know, helping people with, with instabilities or with deafness. I mean, you wouldn't take a deaf patient to a chiropractor to expect their hearing to come back today, but
No,
pretty fascinating way to understand how it started.
it is. It is. How do you, and I don't know how to ask this, but I'll try. So, in a world of medicine, uh, healing, cures, uh, miracles, how, why do you think chiropractic care seems to take a back seat, or and sometimes is treated like a, I don't want to say a stepchild, but it takes a pretty good back
Hmm.
seat sometimes in the medical
Sure.
world.
Well, I mean, I actually say that all the time. I do think that chiropractic is technically the redheaded stepchild, so to speak, of the medical community. It's misunderstood This goes deep, but there is an AMA, right? So there's a one association for the medical world. In the chiropractic world, there's the ACA and the ICA, and they are like that, man. They butt heads. The the heads of those organizations, I don't want to say they don't love each other. I just don't think that they appreciate where each other's coming from enough to get along and to bring us as a community of doctors together, enough to actually challenge the way that things are in the medical world. We're dealing with a couple different communities of egos, and that's the way I think we all kind of have our ego to fight in and of itself. So we have to find that humility to figure out this type of stuff as a collaborative. Um, I mean, it goes well deeper. 100 years ago, the AMA was shutting down chiropractic and nutritional schools because they were not practicing medicine, drugs, and surgery. um, and chiropractic for some reason we got called the snake oil salesman, right? Whereas, we're not selling medicine at all, right? So, it was those other quacks out there, right? The ones that were, standing on a stage, putting poison in a bottle and selling it. Like, see, 100 years ago plus, like if medicine didn't taste like bad stuff, they didn't think it was work. People didn't think it worked, right? Like it was
Oh wow.
just something if it tasted good. See, now these days, like they try to make, medicine taste like bubble gum or something like that,
Yeah.
right? So that people will actually take it. But I mean, if it wasn't like, people had this mindset, like, okay, if it's not like, like sort of poisonous to something that's bad in my body, right? Then that they're not gonna. So, but in the chiropractic sense of, see, this is my philosophy here, and I think a lot of us will agree here. Love versus fear, right? It's the only thing you have to decide all the time. Love versus fear. If you love your body, you're going to want it to be in the best possible alignment and structure so that things will actually continue to heal and work and flow the best way possible. If you're afraid of things going on in your body, then you're going to consider other things and you're going to kind of run into issues in a lot of ways. So let that stuff flow. And so, that's just a little tangent there as far as my philosophy goes of where I think chiropractic is and where it needs to go. We need to continue to love each other and love ourselves and continue to pull our teams together. The ACA is the American Chiropractic Association. The ICA is the International. They just have different philosophies on things. And if we can come together one day, if I can have anything to do with that too, then great. But we definitely need to change healthcare as we know it, right? I mean, that's um, another direction of this conversation. But yeah, I mean, I think we chiropractors are the wellness doctors. There's another rabbit hole here, but we live in a very sick care system, right? It's not a very healthy, health-based healthcare system that we live in right now, and um, I believe chiropractors are the wellness based doctors out there that want to help us become more healthy as a baseline of people living in this country or in the world. And that's frowned upon in the medical world, right? They kind of want you to be sick and to continue to treat your sicknesses. So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of look at chiropractic care and just movement in general. Like even I mean, you could put exercise, movement, recreation, chiropractic care into proactive health care,
Hmm.
where a lot of times it seems like the medicinal world is reactive health care.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly the difference. I mean, if you look at it, um, you know, w- here's the bottom line, right? How do chiropractors get paid? We get paid by the you know the insurance industry. People kind of expect things that way, and that's respectable, right? But that's also why people think that we're there for pain management, right? So people have to be in pain to get treatment, right? So I usually tell my patients, I try to get them to understand, well, you know what? We're actually very proactive doctors, right? We do want you to be proactive. I want you to have a compliant a system that you can comply to, right? That's sustainable, that's healthy, and that's where OS comes in into my system of physically therapeutic movement. But it's also reactive, right? It's also like amazing to be able to combat your physical, maybe biochemical and emotional issues through movement and adjustments and things. I mean, it's incredible the responses that you get. I mean, again, chiropractic is all about the nervous system. If you got a blocked up nervous system, I mean, I've got patients first adjustment, and you've probably seen this, especially with people that roll for the first time. I see this all the time, right? They start either laughing their heads off or crying their eyes out, right? These emotional responses that happen through physical changes are incredible, right? And here's the bottom line, dude. Like, do your medical doctors, your medical doctor friends, and people that you go to, the doctors that you go see, do they have a nervous system too? Sure.
Absolutely.
So they would definitely understand this as well if given they would give it an opportunity. I mean, I have a lot of medical doctor patients out there that um, they resist chiropractic initially. I mean, it's just part of their culture, the culture that they've lived in and been taught in for so many years. But when their back's against the wall, sometimes, and I don't mind it, I'm the last resort for a lot of people. Chiropractic, got your back. My practice is the last resort for some people. We do things unique and differently, and um, I don't mind that. It used to be one of those things where I actually had kind of a like a little personal thing about that. I'm like, sucks to have to be the last resort for people. Like, I want to be the first, person, but I'm not going to fight it anymore. Like, I just want people to eventually, we talk about this all the time, right? Like, you're gonna meet yourself where you're at. Whenever you're ready, you're gonna get there. And that's why I feel, blessed to have a practice and a business that's been around as long as we have. Don't mind it if it's reactive, but love it when it's proactive for sure.
So you know that saying that when you're looking for something, it's always in the last place you look.
Yep.
But then you find it, and so you're not
Yep.
looking anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're the last resort,
Yep.
well, you're the
Yep.
hero. You saved the
Yep.
day.
Absolutely. And that's why I love it. And I find that to be, you know, really true and in a way like a joke in a way, right? Like it's kind of it's almost unfortunate for those who wait, through 20, 30, 40 years sometimes of doing other things. Just recently got an 89-year-old patient, who's, he's looking at his feet. He's stuck like that, you know, move better, get adjusted if that's what it takes, for life, like get adjusted once a month or something like that. Like,
Do you think, because I'm still thinking about the proactive versus reactive
mhm.
care, do you think that people actually are more proactive in caring for their automobiles than they are their own bodies?
um, everything aside from their own bodies. Yes. Um,
Why do you think that is? Because it's like it's almost laughable. Like because
yeah.
you take care of the temporary, the really. I mean, your body's temporary, but the stuff you own
Yep.
is really temporary
Yeah.
versus your lifespan, right?
Yep. Yep. It's in our culture. It's in our culture. I mean, think about it, right? Like we're taught to, change your oil every 2 to 3,000 miles, right? You're taught to, you know, um, I don't. You brought up automobiles, so that's the only one I could think of off the top, right? But that's it. These types of things. You're taught to have a warranty for 5 years, right, or whatever, however long your lease payment is for. So, and if you don't, then your older generations out there, like you're out of your mind, right? Like if I don't have a warranty, my grandfather's going to be like, he's going to be pissed. What's my warranty on my body? You see what I mean? Like, and I don't know, like, I don't know why people don't think about that type of stuff. I mean, I'm guilty of not having the best diet all the time and, not moving. I mean, now these days, my Tuesdays and Thursdays are sitting, here with me and the dog, it's just me. I'm sitting at this desk. I have been humbled over this last year to really, really, really understand what people are dealing with when they sit at a desk. Okay, all day long. And I see you're standing over there. I believe it looks like you're standing, right? So
Yes.
good for you. Um, Brilliant way to do this, but also changing it up is also a good idea, right? Because you know, um, I just it's a hard question to answer, Tim. I don't know the answer. It is laughable in a sense because people do know that the automobile that they live in really truly is their body. Um, and to take this maybe one further, we can maybe go into this discussion, but the core or the chassis of the car, right, is the core of the car. Well, I ask this question all the time. We can talk about the core. What is the core? Um, a lot of people give me a lot of different answers. To me, as a chiropractor, it's the spine and the nervous system being protected by the spine itself. So if we don't take care of our spine, that chassis, we're going to be banged up.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like,
Hmm.
so you can get excited. A lot of people get excited about their car. They get a new
Hmm.
car, or they value and appreciate their car because it's their freedom. It gets
Hmm.
them where they want to go.
Hmm.
Unless they live in the city and then they won't.
Hmm.
Which now that's going to bewilder me though. But
Hmm.
anyway, you take care of your car
Yeah.
because it's your freedom, and most people try to get a car that aesthetically they like or whatever, but
Hmm.
very rarely do we like take that same value or excitement and
Hmm.
enthusiasm about our own bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. Well, you've been in my old car, my smart car,
Yeah.
right? And I live in a city, right? So having that little smarty was my way of being able to park anywhere. And it was like a little tiny little thing. I took care of it. I got my oil changed every, you know, 3 4 months or so. But I definitely didn't take care of it as much as I did my body. It's just who I am, right? Now I have a nicer car, so I do want to take care of it because it does get me from point A to point B. I don't really feel like walking everywhere in this city.
Right.
It's a decent sized city, but I do. I see what you're saying there, and I think it's on. This is why original strength exists. This is why chiropractic adjustments exist to hopefully give people a very simple way to understand their health and wellness is something that they can get a grasp of and quite simply take good care of themselves and just throw a little something in there every day, right? It doesn't have to be these crazy beat yourself up workouts, right? Or these crazy beat yourself up, you know deep tissue massages or grinding yourself with a foam roller or a not trying to pick on anybody out there that uses a 45-pound bar to foam roll yourself. But I don't like to beat myself up. I like to I like to think of it, okay, like the practitioners, the docs out there that are going to take care of me, they can beat up exactly what they need to, right? Rather than me beating it all up all the time. And and that way you get to live smiling and a little happier about the way that you're taking care of yourself. And um, it doesn't have to be so brutal.
So I got to ask you about this because you said something earlier that caused me to remember something that was really fascinating. You were talking about when you set the nervous system free, you can free up the emotions, or you get this emotional response, like laughing and giggling, or just
Mm-hmm.
weeping and
Mm-hmm.
crying.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen with OS, I have seen what I would call like almost parting of the Red Sea miracles as far as how a person's body changes
Mm-hmm.
at the speed of their nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw something one day that I won't forget, and it was so different than anything else I've ever seen because it wasn't the physical change of response that I saw. I saw an emotional change.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this guy, he was normal. He was in his mid 60s, and we were doing the OSA screening assessment. And he got down on the floor. I asked him. I just wanted him to crawl 3 to 4 steps forward, 3 to 4 steps
Mm-hmm.
backwards.
Mm-hmm.
He got down on the floor and started crawling, and his head was down, and he crawled forward and back about 3 times, and then he picked up his head and he was beaming like the
Amazing.
biggest smile ever from ear to ear. And all I was like, what just happened? Because he was like so joyous, and all he did, we were just doing a movement assessment, but
Mm-hmm.
something happened when he was crawling that flipped his joy meter. And and it was the wildest thing because I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
He could not stop the smile on his face. And then he got up and he was like,
I'm
he was
telling you.
peppy and everything.
Yep.
So
And it's
what happened?
well, I mean, you had this question answered, I don't know how many years ago, but I mean, he activated his vestibular system for the first time in a really long time. He got his nervous system going, and it's something that he hadn't done in a really long time in a very healthy way, in a simple and safe and effective way. So he adjusted himself right into a healthier position. Think about it like this too: in crawling or in rocking or in tummy time with head nods, you're putting your head up above your spine and behind your spine, right?
Right.
For the first time in a really long time. If you've been sitting at a desk like I am right now, or being a human, right? Everything is in front of us. Like we don't do things backwards. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
just not what we do. So I think that by putting yourself in that position, there's a relaxation of the nervous system that happens. Think of it like this. In chiropractic biophysics, which is partially the technique that I'm certified in. Okay, I'm certified in chiropractic biophysics. We do diversified and CBP type practice. Think of it like orthodontics of the spine. We're trying to restore the curves of the spine, but just in chiropractic concepts. If I'm forward, if my lordosis in my curve in my neck is stretched forward, right? I'm actually, I wish I had a rubber band on my wrist. You're stretching things forward and tensioning the cord, the
Hmm.
spinal cord, tensioning those fascial, uh, you know, areas all around all that stuff. And your brain eventually is going to say, okay, you know what, dude, you want to hold it like that? Let's do that. I'm gonna get stuck like this if I do this all day long every day. So by finally putting his head up above his body for a certain working for it, right? This isn't something that's just given to you,
Right.
like your head weighs, what's your head weigh, Tim? You got a big head, man.
I got
15 pounds,
I got a
right?
peanut
So
head.
I'm just
What you
kidding.
talking about? They used to call me Beetlejuice.
I know.
I'm
but
serious.
but
My nickname was Beetlejuice.
are you serious? That is hilarious.
Yes.
Well, I mean, look,
10
yeah,
pounds. 10
I,
pounds.
10, 12, 15 pounds, we all have different size heads, right? So, yeah, so so think about just holding 10 pounds, out in front of you all day long, all day. Like that would suck. Just holding my mug of halfway full of coffee and, for the rest of my day would be really, really tiring. My arm would get really, really tired. So essentially, that type of thing happens and we get really weak at a certain point. So eventually when we do work on the curve, it like we say, it resets that curve and it helps those tissues to be more relaxed. If the nervous system's under tension, we're finally putting it in a relaxed position so that the brain's energy can flow through the body in a healthy way. So, just giving himself a few moments to do that was probably like life opening, eye opening to him in so many ways, and just opened a portal to understanding that his body should probably be able to move better. And that's one of those things I think we create too much tension. I think about these words a lot, right? Like your system's very punny. Original strength. We're trying to rediscover our original strength. My practice is called "Got Your Back." Total Health. I got your back. I'm a chiropractor, right? So I also see that as a pun in a way. It's not just it's a sort of understanding. Like, I got your back is just a phrase, right? I got your back, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, right? It's kind of one of those things I like to say. But we're in this to help people to open those portals, of understanding so that their body can be more relaxed and under less tension. And going one bit further into this is really why we talk about, in the farther along understanding of original strength, why um, reflexive stability and reflexive control are really the primary and ultimate goals. And stretching or flexibility and mobility, those are secondary benefits to having reflexive control and strength and stability. Um, we shouldn't just go after, I talk about this a lot, and the neurology of this is interesting. A stretching stimulus to the brain, right? When we're stretching, if I'm being stretched here under tension, with my spine going forward, that's sending my brain what's called a noxious stimulus, right? What does that word noxious mean, Tim?
Means I don't like it.
like means no good, right? It means pain, means harmful. It's also a big chunk of the word obnoxious, right? So it's obnoxious. The brain doesn't really love things that are under tension or under stress or under stretch. So when we stretch things, or you sit there and kind of stretch on things as a primary goal, it ain't happening, right? There was this dude named Einstein, right? He said, if you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, you're out of your mind. You're insane. So, when we start doing something like this guy crawling a little bit, that's different, that's out of the box, that's new, that's you know, eye opening and life opening, you should keep doing that. And whether if it makes you a little bit sore, cool, it's all good. A little bit of soreness is okay. Manageable discomfort is okay. Pain is bad. If you're experiencing pain doing these things, that's bad. If you're experiencing anything noxious or obnoxious, it's probably bad, right? So you want to stay away from bad and go from good to better to best, right?
That's awesome.
So anyway, there you go.
Very cool. So, Dr. J, before we go, you have a nonprofit.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about that real quick?
Sure, sure. So the Got Your Back Foundation is my nonprofit. It's a 501c3. We're service based. We are offering right now on our YouTube channel free programs. We are building this programming out because of our pivot due to COVID. We've had to make a big pivot and not do a lot of things live. Tim, you were at the very first Got Your Back Foundation program, the Crawl on the Mall, the very first Crawl on the Mall, the National Mall in DC. When we're able to do more things live again, we will get back into doing that again. And I really hope that the OS contingent shows up for us because we love teaching people how to press reset. Um, but right now, we do all of our programming online on YouTube and Facebook Live. So we've got everything from a guided meditation, couple different meditation type courses, to nutrition and lifestyle planning, capoeira classes, dance classes, kettlebell clinics, yoga, Pilates, pressing reset with yours truly, and also just trying to teach people how to have a healthy move mentality. So if you don't mind, Tim, I'll go into just
Yeah.
telling people about that because we have a couple new things that we're putting out there through the Got Your Back Foundation. One is the Move Mentality podcast. It's coming out in a few weeks, so please check it out. Move Mentality podcast. It's a movement as medicine, and it is a unique and alternative approach to your personal health. It's going to be really awesome. We're bringing everybody that really is geared towards making a difference onto our podcast. And Tim, you'll be invited at some point very soon. And then also the Move Mentality app, which features first and foremost the original strength resets. You can download the app right now in your stores. It will be going through a few more updates, but it is pretty much there. It is super awesome. Super excited to bring it out to everybody and feature the resets. It's only $3 a month. So if you need a doctor on your side, I got your back. Definitely looking forward to getting that out there. Feel free to follow me on Instagram as well. And, follow us on YouTube and Facebook so that you can DM me if you have any questions or concerns about things as well.
And Dr. J, we'll put all of the links on how to get in touch with you
Sweet.
in the notes of the show.
Cool. Very nice.
So, guys, if you're in the DC area, check out Dr. Klein. And if you're not in the DC area, check out the Got Your Back Foundation and the Move Mentality app.
Thanks,
Dr.
man.
J,
I appreciate it.
hey, man, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate it. OS, love you guys. I'll see you all around.
All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to the Original Strength Podcast.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend.